got to give the people what they want. Welcome to another edition of Power to the People show. Big shout out to the Atlanta audience, to the Buffalo audience, to those on all social platforms. We're live and in living color, and the weather in Buffalo. Let me see, because how about I start writing? Got to give the people. The weather in Buffalo probably just maybe a few degrees lower than in Atlanta. So we all in the same boat right now. So what's up, everybody? Another edition. Got a lot we're going to talk about. Got a special guest coming in. And so we have some important topics to talk about today. But before we get to the important topics, how was your birthday and weekend and all that?
Yeah. So man, has it only been 1 week? So all the birthday festivities were cool. Those who follow me, you know, I had a great trip to Miami. Very relaxing.
Did you get on one of those
no
boats that look like cars?
No, I was definitely trying to find it, but I found every other kind of rental place to rent water equipment. But I was looking specifically for those.
I thought I sent you the link.
No, you didn't send me the link. We were looking it up after the show, but we didn't. We never had the link.
Yeah, so Beamer said, yeah, we're live. She's been trying to make sure. I'm sorry, Beamer, I didn't get back to you on how she could listen. Yeah, I thought I sent you the link. I want to go and try one out one day. One day.
Definitely.
One day. Hey, big news. First of all, our hearts and prayers. We remember 9/11.
Yes.
I forgot to mention that yesterday at church. And speaking of, we had mental health professionals at True Bethel yesterday talking about before you crash out and really giving us some tools. And I want to thank all of them who were on that panel and helped us, and the audience that was very interactive as far as asking questions and really dealing with our mental health and being very, very transparent about their own stuff. And it was just a good time. A lot of people came out on our first Thursday night back in session. And for those of us on our social media platform, you can always tune in to True Bethel, True Bethel, what is it, Buffalo, something on. But that's where you'll find us. True Bethel, I think it says Buffalo
and Niagara Falls.
And Niagara Falls for all of our services. Charlie Kirk, I never even heard the name. Was killed was unalived.
Yes.
Was unalived. And let me say this before I even start talking about it. I do not think that there is any time, regardless of, and we don't know the facts of why this guy who has just been arrested, by the way, they did get the shooter, why he killed him. I'm sure people have their thoughts of why. Charlie Kirk, I had never heard of.
Mm-mm.
And he's a young man who's been speaking all over. He is a Trump supporter. He is a MAGA supporter. He is a father. I want to say that he is a husband. But he just had this huge platform. He is a Christian. He, talked about the same thing that the MAGA movement talks about.
Right.
He is in a speech in Utah at a college.
Yes.
And one shot rings out.
Yes.
And I actually saw the actual footage.
I did too.
Did you see it?
Yes.
And I want to say this from the beginning. My heart goes out to his family. And if he was killed for speaking what he felt, then that's unfortunately it's wrong.
Right.
So I want to say that right at the top because some of the comments that you see are just brutal. At the end of the day, it's still United States of America. People have a right to feel how they feel. You have a right and you have a responsibility to vote for who you want to vote for.
Yeah.
And if it was, and I do not have proof of this, if it was because of his outspoken support of President Trump and for that agenda, that's it's just wrong.
It is, and like you said, the country was built on the First Amendment, so we all have a right to our opinion, as we do on this show. Share our opinions however we deem fit.
Absolutely.
I will say, and like you said, no, it is tragic. And especially because I believe it was in front of his wife and two kids, so that's a trauma that is going to speak beyond just yesterday in this near future. But I will say, this is kind of the events we talked about a couple of weeks on this show. Like once this powder keg starts to increase, then you do get some radicals on either side.
Yes.
Because we had HBCUs all up and down the East Coast.
Yes,
had to go on
Atlanta
had to go on lockdown.
One of the main ones was Atlanta that received the threat.
Yes,
and then others. So I want to make sure that that's very clear that it was actually in Atlanta, and then other HBCUs did get some threats, but not as much as what came to Atlanta. And then there was just a thought: we better shut down campuses.
Yes. So again, this is where the powder kegs lead us. It bubbles, and then eventually the bubble has to pop. So it's tragic, and it's not what we want to see in this country. But if you look through history, again, when you get to these moments, there is tragedy.
According to NPR, Cox identified the suspect as Tyler Robinson of Utah. He said one of Robinson's family members reached out to a friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, one of Robinson's family members, on Thursday night with information that Robinson had confessed or implied that he was the gunman. That information was relayed to authorities and FBI Director Kash Patel. Robinson was arrested at 10 p.m. Now, the White House allegedly is calling immediately for the death penalty.
Oh, jeez.
Let me just say this, and let me tell you how I feel about this. I started the show out saying where my heart is for because it's wrong.
Right.
We had 10 people killed in Buffalo.
Yep.
10 people. And now, in all fairness, this administration was not in the White House.
Right.
But they are now.
Yes.
I've never heard the White House say anything about tragedies that are they come out when it's against MAGA, when it's against conservatives, they come out with everything.
Right.
When one of the president's employees, for lack of a better term, was held up in D.C.
National Guard,
and now National Guard across the United States.
Yeah.
You know how many people get held up every single day? And here's the kicker. I ain't mad about saying we got to get crime under control. I am like, why all of a sudden in these cities, as if the only place where there is crime is in Democratic-led cities?
Right.
If you're going to do it, let's do it.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think any law-abiding citizen wants to deal with crime in their neighborhoods. But it shouldn't be when it's one of your friends, when it's one of your that all of a sudden that we should send out the National Guard, and we should. I'm joined by Leah Halton Pope, council member of the Ellicott District, also of the majority leader of the Common Council. I know I brought you in for something else, but on this show you can always just ring in if you have something to say about it.
Yeah, I think it's ludicrous, to be honest. It's really interesting that we're so easy. It's easy for this administration to focus on themselves. I think it's selfish and insincere.
Yeah.
I think it's disingenuous, and I think it's just about politics per usual. It's not a surprise, but this is what the people voted for.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, before we get to the nitty-gritty, I want to deal with this right off the top because I deal with stuff and I want to say this because I know that there is, speaking of politics, that there is discussion about a greeting that the governor of New York State gave at our church on Wednesday. Somebody, people think, oh, he ain't going to say anything about it. I'm 60 years old. I've been pastoring 31 years, And I'm not easily bullied by people like, you ain't gonna say nothing about this. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. So let me say it. I'm going to say it at the beginning of the show, and then I'm done. And anybody wants to troll through after we're on another subject, it's going to prove my point of how we get off the point when we start to talk about this whole Mandela stuff, because that's already going off the rails with certain people. So let me say this. The governor who has attended True Bethel for decades,
right.
Who has a relationship, and I am not, let me say this, I'm not saying that the choice of words that she uses, for those in Atlanta and other places, Governor of New York State comes to church in the morning. She greeted the crowd. She talked about stimulus money or some type of money that's going to be coming back to people, and she made a comment about not making your first stop the liquor store. People, now, I want to say this. When she said it at the service, because it was in such context that people were with her. She was talking about school responsibility. She was talking about not having students with phones, which we know is controversial. And she said, listen, I'm a woman. As a woman, I'm going to take the blame for it. So she owned her own stuff that she knew it was going to be controversial. It was a school board member there. The majority leader of the state was there. The majority leader of the city was there. And at the end, where she was supposed to go out the back door, because if she thought she missed up, she would have went out the back door, got into with state police and drove off. Nope, she was like, and people received her. I'm not saying it was the best choice of words. What I am saying is you got to understand that the reason it all of a sudden became controversial was from a potential Republican opponent who has never voted for anything for our neighborhoods. Never. Who wasn't around during 9/11 when the governor stood side by side with us, who was not there when the governor made sure that there is money for don't forget, there's about to be a memorial that is heavily funded and started by the state of New York, who was not there. And let me say this, I'm not I am going to say I defend the context, because there was more than that one comment. Who was not there during TOPS, who was not there saying we got to get more brown and black, and not afraid to say it, people in college. And so here we will have free tuition for adults to go to our community schools, and thousands have registered. All I'm saying is that it's easy and then what we do is we jump on the bandwagon that was started by a Republican. I know, because I got the calls. And then her next opponent, who is her lieutenant governor, jumped on the bandwagon. And I just want to say this to those who are listening, whether you agree with me or not. Now, let me tell you this. You don't have to agree with me. I'm okay with that. I'm not, and I want to be clear. I'm a regular citizen. Mm-hmm. I'm a regular citizen. Yep. And so when I was elected, I couldn't block you. I couldn't do this. I could, yep. I ain't got to be bothered with it. Somebody asked why you going to talk about Mandela's or whatever on air, and why you leaders and preachers. Let me say this, because I'm going to get it all. I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to be done with it. And if you want to keep this on the show when I'm getting ready to talk about something very important, I ain't throwing nobody else under the bus, but I know you couldn't have been talking about me. I know. Because the first anti-violence group that was in this city, myself, Janice McKinney now, Rashid N.C. Wyatt. You can't be talking about me, because whether it was from police concerns, and I found something from 2020, it said 2020, 2022 Pridgen legislation. Mm-hmm. No, you ain't talking about me. Because I was out there marching when and took the hit of police unions saying we're not going to support him. I know you ain't talking about me, because True Bethel was the church that stood up when it was We Can't Breathe with their hands up, and then unions went against me because of that. I know you ain't talking about me, when the reason we have police cams right now is because a group of us on the Common Council push it. I know you ain't talking about me, because at the end of the day, the store licenses got really scrutinized under our administration, and if you really want it, I get it. you must have been talking about some other people.
Absolutely.
Because you couldn't have been talking about me. So at the end of the day, I accept that you wonder where other people are, and you wonder why we talking about it on a radio show that thousands upon thousands hear. Well, that's why. It's a platform. But let me tell you how lost we get in the sauce as a people, and why I done kept my head down. I ain't messing with nobody. I don't bother nobody.
Sure don't.
I'm just living my life, and I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna say it. Because sometimes if you don't say it, people can't defend what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So let me just say it. Let me just say it like this. At the end of the day, I use the platforms that I have in order to discuss it, to get information out, work behind the scenes. I don't always have to be in front of the camera. If I'm in front of the camera, you got a group. He always want to be on TV. Okay, I'm y'all ain't seen me. I get calls all the time from TV.
Yep.
Turn them down. Send them to the elected leaders who are in, or to people who are in those movements. But don't you? And you can. That's your option. But it's the reason we can't get anything to get done as a people, because we end up turning on each other as a people and then going, well, why didn't this person? Why didn't it? If you in the fight, be in the fight.
Fight. Yeah.
If you
fight
the leader,
issue. Don't,
fight the issue. I'm going to support leaders in the areas that I believe in. First of all, I found out about it on the news. And nobody called me and say, hey, Pridge, can you stop by? This is what's going on. I left my phone in the car, but get my phone out the car because I might get some texts from some close people. At the end of the day, I found out about everybody else. I need you to understand, I am not the connected one at this period of my life by choice. I'm letting everybody else, because if I'm in the front, why he in the front? If I'm in the back, why you not in the front? If I'm in the middle, he's straddling the fence. So you know what? I got a grandkids, great grandkids. I got a church to take care of. I got a radio show. I choose to speak in areas where I feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, we're talking about mental health. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you what I learned. There are boundaries, and I get to set those boundaries in my life. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, I can't be at everything. I just got a call from a former elected official saying that somebody from, and let's talk about the story, but invited me to a meeting the day before. I just got the call. She called yesterday. I just got to talk to her today. And at the end of the day, I have something I can't break that I have to be at. But at the end of the day, I know Pridgen show up is about Pridgen. Why you come on, we got to get this together, folks. We got to get it. So let's talk about what's happening, because people in Atlanta have no idea. So this is what's happening. So I'm done. I'm going to move on because this is so important to talk about. We have a market here, a gas station named, and I'll say it, Mandela's. And this man opened it at one location, opened a second location, and then allegedly, let me say why I say allegedly, because I don't know. I'm just getting all these facts, right? The guy who's built it now rents it out to someone else, two different owners, but it's still called Mandela's.
100%.
100%. Okay. In one of the locations, I saw a video, and I even had some conversation because I thought I missed something, in which the men who work in the store, who are, I believe, of African descent, or what are they?
They're Bengali.
Okay, so
they're Bangladesh.
I got some misinformation today, because I was told that so they're Bangladesh. They had sticks in their hands, and they were, I see a swing
100%.
toward a female to put her out of the store. So it seemed like she wouldn't leave the store or something.
That's where it gets a little messy.
Okay.
But I'll let you continue, and then I'll tell you
and then a African-American man says, y'all don't have to do her like that. He intervenes, and what I was told today, again, I'm piecing these things together, is that they kind of came after him. There's a dropping of the phone. And now we're in full protest mode. Give me what you know, Councilwoman, Majority Leader.
So, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I found out probably the same way everybody else did, except somebody in my office said, hey, another person who works in City Hall, there's a Facebook video. Have you seen it? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The video was, as you said, and it was from the perspective of the young man, the African-American man who was protecting this person. What I found out since was he was standing in the back of the store where the cold beverages are.
Mm-hmm.
He heard some noise when he went to investigate. He had his phone on. He started recording because he allegedly witnessed, and I say allegedly because everything is still alleged, he noticed that multiple men, maybe between 4 and 6 men, were subduing a woman who, for what reason at the time we were not aware, for stealing or some other issue or whatever. They didn't want her to leave or they wanted her to leave. Either way, they were all attacking her at one point. He grabbed the stick, as you could see from the video, and he tried to stop what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they called the police.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally found out, the first thing that I did was call the police.
Mm-hmm.
And when the chief of police found out what was going on, he immediately looked to see if there was a call. There was a call, but that happened at the time of the young man's video. And
so it wasn't from the store owner.
The store called.
Okay.
But they called when the gentleman was recording the video.
Okay.
And they called for a trespassing issue.
Okay.
Not for theft, not for anything else prior to that moment.
Okay.
I found out the next day when it went viral. Everybody found out about it, and of course, I went up there. I did meet the family members of this young lady. There's different information about what actually occurred that put us in this position. The store, as you said before, is owned by the original Mandelas, and that owner of the building, the brand, obviously he has his own opinions, his own comments.
And I haven't heard any, but he's African. Maybe that's where
he is African.
He's African, but he's renting the store
to
out
the Bangladesh community.
Okay. All right.
So it's not the same.
Okay.
And the owner of the store is actually a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, people don't know that. Like the owner of the business that's running in there.
Oh, the one that's running is owned by a Bangladesh female.
Yes.
Okay.
At
the location.
At the location where it happened.
So let me ask you this, and I want to get this right, and I got my young buck in the building, so he can comment on what the streets are saying in his age group. Are both of the stores owned by the same people?
The renter, the lessees?
Yeah.
No.
So the store on
the only
Ferry,
store that's impacted is Broadway and Jefferson, not Ferry.
But there's a protest now at the store on Ferry.
Because the assumption from the public is that this is all Mandela's. And so you assume that because the name Mandela's is out there, that this is a Mandela's issue, when it's not. It's the owners, it's the operators of the business inside, the lessees.
Has anybody made that plain that it's two different owners? Two different people who are running the store?
So I met with I went up to the protest. I was there on
I saw you on the
Wednesday.
news. Mm-hmm.
I was there on Wednesday, and people got a lot to say. And they still weren't clear then. The owner did walk up to me at the time after, as we were leaving, and there's some confusion. People were thinking they're of one community, and they're not. There was confusion about Bangladesh versus Arab Americans who are here as well, and Yemenis, etc.
Hey, Ray, I'll have you answer this on your ear.
And then
you can come around it.
The bigger issue comes down to, no matter what happened, regardless of what the situation is, some individuals say that the victim may or may not have had a mental health crisis. There was something else going on. She's been there multiple times, etc. It does not mean that that doesn't justify attacking a person. If there was something nefarious going on, then they should have called the police, and that was it. They do have security. This particular location came to me last year. There were some complaints going back several years from the block clubs prior to when you were in office, and I'm sure you heard about it
Yep,
before.
yep.
And so I refused to authorize their food store portion of their license.
So I want to make this plain. And Tim Newkirk, there's so many people online. He said you closed more stores down than construction sites, Bishop, which we did. We closed a lot. I'll give the real award to Rashid S.C. White. Rashid would close down the store, but it was during our administration. Carolyn Lane says she was online talking. I'm sorry. Not sure. Tim Nooker, no, there was another. Yvette Spencer says stealing. We were told the lady had an issue with food she had bought. She complained that they tried to put her out, and that's when we see what happened on the video.
That's the problem. There's multiple stories, and nobody really knows any of the full details. So some people said that it was stealing. Some people said returning food that was expired. I don't know because none of that's clear.
So I want you to go back because I think a lot of people don't know this, and I think it's important that this is out there because it is easy to criticize an elected official before you even know. So you had already denied.
So they were denied last year for food. They were denied because of relationships with the community. There was an issue with rodents. There were issues with the fence got knocked down. They had overflowing garbage.
So basically, they could just sell gas
at the time.
At the time, okay.
Meeting with we had an agreement. There were conditions. We will give you 60 days to fix it, and then we'll come back and talk to the community and you again. And at that point, between the block club, and this is a strong block club.
It's a strong, I know.
They're very strong.
Mortimer does not play.
Exactly.
Right.
You know how Mortimer is. They were very clear, like, okay, they have maintained their part of the bargain. We can release them to have their license. And so we did. So last year, late, it didn't happen in April. It happened later in the year based on our agreement with conditions. And the conditions had to do with 911 calls, 311 calls, making sure that they clean the grease traps, et cetera. And when I followed back up just last month with Mortimer Block Club, again, they were still maintaining. So they were renewed again in April. Okay. And they were still maintaining their side of the agreement. So the only issue that we were having is that, and that was not because of the store so much that I knew of, the issue was they were open 24 hours. And after a certain amount of time, it was some nefarious activities that were happening outside of that.
And we've had that problem when I was in office.
And I have all the police reports. Yes. Like, I have every call now. I just got those from the police yesterday. So I called the B district. We were already working on changing their hours of operation before this incident Tuesday night.
So you were already involved, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, there's a public hearing that was already
started. That the public has been. Who do we have on the phone? All right, come on. I'm going to put Kamal on real quick. Hey, Kamal, I got a lot to cover, but I respect you, brother, and want to get you on.
Blessed love, family. This incident is a specific incident, but the New Buffalonians have had an impact, positive and negative, on this city ever since they've flooded into the community. And I think we should address the impact that the New Buffalonians have had on the city, generally speaking, not just focus on this one specific incident. This one specific incident may be the tip of the iceberg, but from rents going up 100, 200, 300%, and a whole other variety of other things, people taking people's property, stealing other people's property, being bad landlords. There's a whole series of issues that have happened since these New Buffalonians have come in. We need to address the whole issue and not just focus on this one incident.
Thank you, Kamal. Thanks, Kamal. I really appreciate it. So you've been involved with this store before, as I have, yes, because the community in the past, when I was the Ellicott District Council member, were concerned. And even on my way out, I think they had some problems. At the end of the day, let's get to the incident, because so people are saying, well, one person says, well, I heard her arm was broken, and somebody says, no, it wasn't. Valerie Allen says, I heard her on video asking for her money back. And so it is. So here's the question. Somebody asked, so what should we, did they break her arm? What action do you suggest we take as a community regarding the incident? Why has no one been arrested? Your opinion matters.
All right. So
go ahead.
If I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did talk to the family at the site. And even then it was conflicting ideas of what actually transpired. One person said there was $202.30 that were put down, and then she switched it for $5. All of that, nobody really knows all of the details because you just don't know all of the details for that. I guess the issue that really came down to is the person can't be arrested unless somebody files a police report.
Right.
So they called for trespassing. Somebody came to remove this person off of the property. The police allegedly came. They did that. And at that time, this young lady allegedly never said, oh, and this happened to me at this point.
Got it.
When I met the family at the time, she had not filed a police report, or she had not gone to the police to file a complaint of any sort. She had not gone to the hospital at any point. She has since. She did that, I believe, Tuesday evening.
Okay, and that knowledge is power, somebody just said.
She did it Tuesday evening, and she also did a police report on Tuesday or Wednesday. And I met with B District to confirm some of that and talk to the commissioner about it. The issue that we're having is it became more than it needs to, because now we're conflating information. We've got a lot of Facebook warriors out there without any facts, and we don't have the facts yet because it hadn't been shared.
But right now, because she went to, and if it rings again, you can just come over. Or you can really push here. You know, technology is me. Right now, that would trigger an investigation.
Absolutely.
So I need people out there to hear this. In the beginning, according to a council member, according to the majority leader, she did not file a police report. That's why no one has been arrested. Now she has. And at the end of the day, it's moving forward. Mark, what's your thoughts on this?
I will say this is I was really kind of out of it, so I would just sporadically hear Mandela's, but I didn't know any of the details of what's going on. So I haven't seen the video, so I'm just going based off what I heard today. I think Kamal,
it's bad.
I think Kamal is right in one extent of what I think you do have to try to figure out, because the new Buffalonians, new Americans of whatever descent, they are coming to all of our communities, and there has to be a cultural competence on both sides. And we've talked about this on our show before too. So there's things that they do that we don't understand. There's things that we do I know they don't understand. And so there has to be a cultural competence, because everything that every impact to our community isn't a bad one. Again, I'm completely agreeing with Kamal. On this incident, however, I think not knowing all the details, it speaks to our bigger societal issue of how we treat Black women in general.
Absolutely.
And I think that level of disrespect and dissent could start in our own community, and how we treat our own Black women. And that just, I think, correlates to, well, if they don't respect them, why should we? On a larger scale. But I think if we're a country, and we always talk about, we do have to follow some due process here. So if the police report is in, now there's the investigation. So if you have viable information, that's what needs to be in police hands, not conjecture, conflation, and oh, well, I heard, because the more you turn this into a he said, she said investigation, the police is our hands tied, and then everyone gets to walk free. So if you have video, if you were there, you're the ones that need to come forward and say, no, I was an eyewitness, or I have another video, because like I said, the longer it says he said, she said, it won't be gross.
So I did ask. So I actually met with the owner yesterday. I had police there. The owner, and actually a person from the Arab Business Association, who has nothing to do with the Bangladesh community. It's separate, but the impact of their store is actually impacting other businesses.
So I want to dig into that. I got to pay some bills.
Yep.
I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about that, because a lot of people just think it's all one group. Right. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back.
When it comes to something as personal as your clothes, you need to deal with somebody you can trust. That's why so many people turn to Hobson's Dry Cleaning, conveniently located in the heart of the community at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming.
When you take your clothes to Hobson's, you can trust that they'll be ready on time.
You can trust that your whites will be white.
You can trust that you'll always get a fair price and service with a smile.
You can even trust that you won't have to get out of your car if you don't want to. Hobson's has a drive-through window for your convenience.
Trust is what it's all about at Hobson's Dry Cleaning.
Hobson's Dry Cleaning, your one-stop dry cleaners serving the community for over 30 years at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming. Call 891-8298. That's 891-8298.
All right, we're back. Now, let me go and let me get some of the comments. Kelly Reese says, so we're clear that the East Ferry location isn't related to the Broadway location. That's
no,
correct?
Only that the landlord
Is
is
the
the
same.
original Mandela's owner, yes. That's the only thing.
Valerie Allen says we went through this on Hurdo at Wellington Pub, and I was out there for the question of where the preachers. I was marching right out there when that occurred. So we're clear. No, it says all videos on her page. Buddy Love says we made it more than it needs to be. Somebody must have asked that question. And he says, no, we gave her a voice as many of the individuals in our community didn't get. I agree with Buddy Love. So I'm not sure what he must have been responding to somebody asking about, was it more than what it needed to be? So let me just give my 2 cents right now, and we'll continue the discussion. Like I said, I was invited to tonight's meeting. I really wish I could be there, and if I have 2 seconds where I could stop in, but I do have guests coming in from out of town and an event. At the end of the day, the video is unclear, but what is clear to me is that it was one female.
That's it.
And that there were sticks. And I'm going to tell you what bothered me about seeing the sticks, whether they hit her or not. I see a lot of videos in other countries of women being beat on the street.
Yep.
I see them. I see that calmness about taking out a stick and publicly beating a woman or a man, but most times it's a woman. And so when I saw the stick, I was like, oh, nah.
Hell no.
Nah. So if you want to know my opinion, 5 men, but because we got to put it in context, because if it was 5 cops
Still
on
doesn't
one
matter.
woman, we'd be saying the same thing. So it's not, and I want folks to hear me and don't think that I'm taking up for any culture. I'm taking up for the situation. I believe we have to stay focused, laser focused on the issue and on the people who did it. And it's okay to send out a message to anybody else. I don't care what you operate. That if you think that you feel comfortable in pulling out weapons for whether it was a disagreement of food or whether it was whatever it was, because I'm not even going to paint her in a bad situation because I don't know. But whatever, exactly, because it'll be what City Grill turned into, where the person who got injured, they wanted to look at their background. That doesn't matter to me.
To do with it.
What matters to me is that I saw her being surrounded, and I saw or heard a little bit of the interaction. And so the question that I was asked, what should we do? We should stay organized and focused. And to me, those store owners should be the ones under scrutiny and not each other, and not African Americans against African Americans, because at the end of the day, you didn't show up or you couldn't be there, and that's where we always get lost. When this murderer murdered in Utah the other day, you see MAGA is altogether on focusing on the murderer.
That's their message. They focused on the issue.
Trump ain't going against this person ain't going in MAGA. No, they like, we walking. That's how you get things done. And I've taught this and preached this in our community. And sometimes the one who have the loudest, we make them the loudest, even though they're not the loudest, because they get attention by going against each other.
If I can,
go ahead.
As a black woman who walks through, and in this space, it's a lonely space anyway. You find yourself in uncomfortable situations most times, just in general.
Yeah.
You can go into some of these locations and you already feel ostracized when you go shopping. And it's not the same, I know, as with black men. You have your own trauma, but so do black women.
Yeah, okay.
So my anger comes in that you felt comfortable enough. And it wasn't just that you beat her, but then there was a little girl that was in there too that saw this happen. So now you have a child who witnessed abuse of a man on another woman, regardless of what the issue is. I don't know what it was. It does not matter to me
Absolutely.
that you attacked her. But I already walk around with a certain level of fear in certain spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to be protected if something goes wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And so to the young man who actually defended her,
big
I thank him
big ups
publicly
Yes.
for doing what needs to be done and
Yes.
standing up and taking the stick back. I've asked, the store owner has fired all of those individuals, but she has not necessarily come out yet to say anything. And as a woman and a woman business owner, is that the message you want from your employees, that this is how we want our customers to be treated? And then as a community, what are we doing?
Right.
How is it that a person can? We have to start looking out for each other in a different way.
So
this is not okay.
We know that, some would say, well, this was one incident, but
It was not one incident.
I totally agree. I am, especially as elected official, it's all about legislation.
Yes.
And one of the things that we put into place when I sat in City Hall was that all of these stores had to have security surveillance
And they do
video.
have it.
Yes.
And it had to be released upon request. So I'm going to go back, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I know if I don't say it, and then where Pridgen? The
right
reason
here.
you got the doggone cameras in there is because the Buffalo Common Council unanimously voted to on every store license that they have to have security camera. Now, it only has to be kept for so long, but this is within the time
And
frame.
it's still there, sir.
And it's still there.
It's still a requirement and agreement as one of the conditions that you do not get it unless you agree to share information with the police. And so in our conversation yesterday, release the video. Make sure you get it to the police. If you don't have to just put it all out, but don't cut it.
Right.
Don't give me a
I
portion
agree.
of it.
I agree.
Let me see the whole thing from start to finish, because if I only see the response of the young man when he took the stick, then that's not enough information. And so the owner they've already contacted their tech people. They are releasing it to law enforcement, and I've asked if I could see it as well.
Let me say this, because in other towns, like in Atlanta,
share it.
when there's video,
Share
it gets shared fairly
Share
quickly,
it immediately.
like in days.
But you can't protect people.
But
so if
in
you fire
Buffalo,
them,
it's like it takes some time to get these videos. And at the end of the day, so let me say this. I'll finish answering the question. I do think that we need to stay laser focused, that we should not take this out on people who have not been involved, because that's what happens to us as African Americans. We are stereotyped that if one African American does something, it means everybody did it. And that's unfortunate. It's unfair. But that's when we don't get anything done, because now we go after everybody else. Every store in this city is not owned by Bangladesh.
and not every Bangladesh person is going to allow something like that to happen in
Absolutely. So I am encouraging, since the person said my opinion mattered, I'm encouraging those who I feel are righteously protesting, let me say that, to make sure we stay on where it needs to be.
On the message.
To not damage anybody else's store because of their ethnicity, and to not move this into a situation in which we begin to argue with and then don't get anything done. Because I already have heard, why this person trying to lead this? Listen. I've heard for 13 years, black people don't need a leader. We don't need this. Somebody has to organize, whether you like it or not. And it's okay for there to be multiple people around an issue who work together for the good of our community. That's really okay. And it's almost better when you have a team that is focused and get something done. And the question is, what do you want to get done? And if the answer is the people who did it should be investigated, and if there
100%.
is a crime, they should be arrested and
Absolutely,
prosecuted.
100%.
And if the answer is there needs to be a strong message to, and I believe every store, by the folk being up there and closing it down,
I think they know.
is getting the message. And so I am not against those who are standing outside, and I think that's a community response that's appropriate.
So I just want to clarify, the cease and desist is also a result of something that was already in the works because of some licensing issues that they had, like having inspections done and making sure. So it's a suspension right now, and they are not expected to open anytime soon until there's a hearing. But certainly, given now these circumstances,
I'm glad to hear you say it, because, and this wasn't a part of this administration, but during my time and during Byron's time, if there was a fight in the club, we were shutting it down, and it was shut down for months sometimes until there was due process. And I'm glad to hear you say that this is being shut down, regardless of whatever reason, but there will be a due process. That's where we as a community have to then also participate. That's when we have to have that single agenda and go into our elected officials and say, this is what we feel should occur. But if we do what folks hope we do, we'll just turn on each other.
Absolutely. I think what helps in our communities is being intentional. When you're opening a store, making sure that if you're going to be in that community, there's a relationship in that community. When people were in our community, we're talking about destroying the store, or in some cases, there were threats of arson to that location, not considering the fact that you have people that look like you who are right behind that. Whose homes that they've worked really hard to purchase would be impacted by any kind of violence in that nature. That's a problem for me. That's a huge problem, because that can impact all of us. But we need to demand what we want. Like, if you want to see, if the store opens, we want to see representation in it, then have that conversation. But don't just say, do this, and there's no action behind it.
Absolutely. Ross says, so the confusion is that how in the heavens does an insensitive, disrespectful to black women and people, a white male gets shot by another white man, he was talking about the HBCUs, led to HBCUs getting threatened all over America. Black people didn't have anything to do with the shooting. I agree. Yeah. And it seems like that's tied now.
Yeah, because like I said, it's now now the race bubble is blowing up, and the two have nothing to do with each other.
Not at all.
It was the person of interest looked like European descent, nothing to do with us, but people look at it as, oh, this is my time, and we're radicalized now. So I don't know. It's, again, we talked about it. We preceded this by saying, the longer this goes on, the powder keg could blow up.
Absolutely.
We've been talking about this since the new administration came in.
Since January 19th?
Ross says the hate was already there and is alive. Beverly McCulley on our Facebook page says, yes, no tearing up our own community. I think that's an important message to send out, because we can, and I'm doing a series called Before You Crash Out. We can crash out, and then we end up ruining our own communities. At the end of the day, we're already in the food desert. At the end of the day, this was not every store. It was not. Let's stay laser focused on who it was, on who the ownership is, and on who those employees were, and stick together. So I want to say publicly, so if anybody has where are the leaders? I'm using an hour of my platform, huh?
They said it. I was standing. They were like, the Common Council, and nobody's here. And where are they? And literally, somebody was like, "Oh, there she is, right here."
And that's why I think it's important. Why I'm glad why you made the time to come here and talk about all the things that were already happening, and that you didn't just show up at that event. You've been showing up. I had community meetings. Let me say this, folks. That Mortimer Block Club,
they are very.
They gonna make sure you show up.
They gonna make sure you show up, and it wasn't just Mortimer; it was all that community.
It's the Willard Park Taxpayers Association.
So when that community then says it's okay, then as an elected official, you go like, okay,
it's representative government.
If something happens in between, now you have all of those block clubs who will support their elected leaders, who should say, she's been on it. So I want to thank you for being on it. But I thought it was important to let's talk about it, and let's get all of the information out there so that some of the misinformation out there does not continue. So for the record, Darius Jabron Pridgen, this is me as an individual, do support those who are standing up for this woman and who is standing against the abuse of anybody, but especially our women, especially women, period, in this way. So I do support it. If I have, like I said, I'm juggling a lot of things today. I would like to stick my head in just so that they know. But at the end of the day, I think it's very important to stay laser focused, or else you tear your whole community apart, and we've seen it. L.A.
That's
and
my
other
concern.
places.
And I feel like, it's okay to protest. And so even in being there, my comments were, I'm good with the protest, but I'm proud of us for not going farther than protesting and speaking out and not attacking. So when there were threats of violence against the facility, I just want people to think of the collateral damage of our actions in our own neighborhoods and communities. Because right across the street, there's low-income housing. Right behind it, there's some low-income housing. For some individuals, these stores, these bodegas, et cetera, this is the only source of being able to get to food. All I have in Ellicott is Tops on Jefferson and Price right now on Elmwood. That's all we have.
Absolutely.
And so being mindful of what we do. So when I even meet with these stores, and I meet with every single owner, and that goes for a gas station, that goes for Penzies over on Elmwood, that goes for a bodega or 7-Eleven or whatever stores are available, they all come and meet before we reauthorize food licenses. And at that point, the conditions are made clear. This is what you promised to do. If these things happen, and that's from how you handle things, if we get multiple calls about your location, then it's over. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a wrap. And so they were able to operate with gas before they could do hot food until they met some requirements. And at this point, and I talked to her, I'm not interested in really seeing them open. There has to be some significant changes and support from the community to do that, period.
So, folks, you heard it right here on Power to the People. That's what this show is about. We face these issues, and you're hearing right here what it is your council member has been doing, what your past councils have been doing. And so I guess my last couple words on this, and I'm going to say it again. If we're going to get something done, we got to stay focused to the issue and not get into who you don't like, who's showing up, or who you don't like that's got the mic. If as a community we are together, you have my support. But at the end of the day, we got to stay together. We should not treat other people like we don't want to be treated. And big ups to that gentleman who stepped in, and my heart to the female who had to go through this. But hopefully somebody is listening to this who knows her, and let her know that she has I can only speak for me, has my full support, and know that regardless of what the situation, you got her back too.
100%.
So I think that has to be out there. So I think that answers a lot of questions. I got 2 minutes. Anything else going on in Ellicott you want to let us know about?
What don't we have?
or in the Common Council? Where we at? Let me ask you this, because this is you.
Yeah.
Where are we at with the comptroller? Now, did she have a meeting, I believe, yesterday?
She did have a meeting.
And this is about the comptroller not issuing the bonds. So would those bonds put us in dire debt?
Well, the holdup is about the cap, and the Buffalo Public Schools were what was putting us over the top.
Okay.
So what was asked?
So if the Buffalo Public School piece was there, you would be under her cap. But I was told that the Buffalo Public Schools piece is reimbursable, like 90%.
97.1%.
And do we have to take on? We don't have to take on the debt of Buffalo Public Schools. We're issuing the bonds.
We would have to
be
go
responsible.
We would have to go to market for those bonds for it. But with it being 97.1% reimbursable and the other 3% coming directly from Buffalo Public Schools, the council decided collectively it was worth going to market for it and going over the cap for that. It's my understanding that she's since gone to market for BPS.
Okay.
But
not for Buffalo. She's been ringing that bell. Barbara been ring. She said, "I'm gonna ring this bell."
She did, and I mean, I'm not. I understand. Now, let's be clear. There's some projects, and I think that from that perspective, I fully support. There are projects that are started that went to market that are still not even, we haven't done anything with. They haven't been started.
I got to get ready to go. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for your opinions. Thank you for your insight. Until next week.
Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home has 3 locations to serve you in Buffalo. 347 Peckham, 2258 Bailey Avenue, and Providence Memorial Chapel at 1275 Sycamore. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes offers traditional services, and they have services for all faiths. And at Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, they have air-conditioned parlors and chapels. Financing is available, as is limousine service. At those difficult moments in your life, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes is available where you are with counseling services. Call toll-free 877-885-7734. That's 877-885-7734. Or locally 845-5545. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. We are here to serve you, here to serve this present age. Call today, toll-free 877-885-7734. Or email info@brianklewisfuneralhome.com.